Welcome to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Marie, a courage coach, creative soul, and adventure seeker. Since thru-hiking the Pacific Crest Trail in 2019, I'm on a mission to help you embrace your most confident self so you can achieve your dreams too. If you're eager for deep conversations, big questions, and meaningful connections, join me on the quest to discovering how we can create a more magical and memorable life. Hello, nerds! How are you? I'm good. This is episode 100. Woohoo! Truth be told, I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to do something special for this episode. And so today's Friday, the Friday before it's meant to come out. And because I was putting so much pressure on myself, I kept postponing the recording of this episode to the last minute. And I realized, you know what? Let's just remove all pressure and do a regular episode. And that's an analogy for a lot of things in life. I spent most of the holidays grumpy. And it's weird because during the holidays, during Christmas, New Year's, you're kind of expected to be happy, to be festive, to be like in the mood, in the New Year mood, like New Year, new me, setting resolutions. And I was not in that mood. Listen, I craved being alone so much. And as much as I love my partner, my family, my friends, part of me was just really angry that I had to be surrounded with so many people. And you know what? Instead of making that a problem, instead of shooting myself, instead of saying I should be happy, I should be more festive, I just decided to accept it. I was like, guess I'm grumpy this year. It's okay. That's okay. I don't need to pretend to be anyone that I'm not. I don't need to catastrophize and make it mean that there's something wrong with me. I just know it's kind of like the weather. It's going to pass. There is a gray sky right now and it's going to move through and the sun's going to come back. I'm working on being a lot more matter of fact. Less romanticizing and catastrophizing and black and white thinking. More of a, this is just how it is, and that's okay. Like a down-to-earth, neutral outlook. Our brain tends to want to make everything a big deal. That causes a lot of inner tension. And I don't know about you, but what I want is inner peace, more inner peace. And the key to have more inner peace is to look at what's going on around you with a more neutral eye. And not just what's going on around you, but what's going on in your head. So let's say you're having an anxious day or you haven't slept well. And so, or maybe you're about to be on your period and you're having a lot of intrusive negative thoughts. Being able to look at them with some distance, with some neutrality and distance, like, oh, look at me. Clearly I'm about to be on my period because my brain's making a fuss up in here, making a problem with everything, getting annoyed at the tiniest things. That's interesting. Just, stepping aside and instead of being in the storm, being next to the storm, being able to say, oh, okay, this week is a tough one for me mentally, and just looking at the tornado of thoughts instead of being in the thoughts. Same thing at work. Let's say your boss is micromanaging what you're doing. Instead of spending your energy thinking about how they should be different, they shouldn't act like this, they should do this instead, instead of being in that tornado, that spiral, step aside. Don't make a big deal out of it. Think, okay, that's intense. They're being intense. Don't know what's going on for them today. Jeez, and then get back to your work. Our brains, if they're left to their own devices, they just love to complain and catastrophize and blame. That's the automatic, easy route. But that drains your energy. All the energy that you could be using to be doing something with your life, you can waste it on complaining, catastrophizing, and making a big deal out of things that are not a big deal. But your primitive brain just loves when you're doing that, because while you're doing that, you're not taking risks, you're not doing anything, you're not getting out of your comfort zone. There's an analogy that I really love that comes from Stacey Bayman. She talked about how when you fall in the hole, okay, like whatever it is, like think about a situation in your life, a challenging situation. Maybe you lose your job, or your business fails, or someone breaks up with you. You fall into a hole. You have a few choices, right? You can go, oh, I should have looked where I was going. I shouldn't have fallen into that hole. I'm so stupid. Or they pushed me in that hole. I hate this person. This is their fault. You can do that. But while you're doing that, you're still at the bottom of the hole. You're not getting out of it. Versus if you look at the situation more neutrally, in a down-to-earth, calm, matter-of-fact way, you're going to think, okay, so I fell into a hole. Here I am at the bottom of the hole. It's okay. Now what? Now from that place, of that calm place, you might see, oh, there's a branch there. I could hold that branch, pull on that branch, and that's going to get me out of the hole. See how your energy is channeled into a much more useful direction than when you're spinning in catastrophizing and complaining and blaming. So try to notice where you're doing that in your life, where you're draining your energy in ways that are not serving you. Okay, now, today is episode 100, and I want to talk about big number goals. I love big number goals. The first one that I set was thru-hiking the Pacific Crest Trail in 2019. The Pacific Crest Trail is 2,653 miles, going from the Mexican border to the Canadian border in the west of the United States. It's not the Pacific Coast Trail. Many people think it's on the coast, but no, it's Crest Trail because it's in the mountains. You never ever see the ocean. So that was the first big number goal that I set. I was going to hike 2,653 miles. And it brought me so much freaking joy. And afterwards, when I came home, I was like, okay, now what? And I felt lost, right? So I had to figure out, what was it about that goal that brought me so much joy, that made my life so much better? And what I found out is these three things. Having a big number goal like this helps me, one, see what I'm capable of. Has to be a number that freaks you out, okay? Whether it's miles or money, we're going to talk about money today, or maybe it's a number of pages that you're going to write, or a number of podcasts that you're going to publish, or a number of blog posts that you're going to create. Whatever it is, has to be a big number that freaks you out. Okay, so the reason why I set number goals, and why I think you should as well, is to see what I'm capable of. Number two, that's number one. Number two is to have a clear focus, to cut the crap. Makes it much easier to make decisions. You're like, okay, I have to hike all of these miles. I have this clear focus. When I woke up every day, I didn't have to make decisions. It was like, okay, well, I guess I have to hike 25 miles. Or I need to hike as many miles as I possibly can today to get closer to my goal. So that was cutting a lot of crap. Like I don't have many choices. This is what I have to do. And that focus, that simple focus, brings so much peace, so much lightheartedness. It's not easy. It's not easy to hike 25 miles. But when you know every morning what you have to do, you just feel lighter. And the third one is it forces you to make bold moves. And making bold moves that you've never done before, forces you to evolve, to grow as a person. And so that's why from now on, I'm going to go from one big number goal that turns me on to another. Because that first one, that PCT goal, changed my life. Because I had a clear, simple focus, didn't have time for bullshit. I was making bold moves, growing, surprising myself and seeing what I was capable of. It brought so much pride to me because I was not staying the same. I was discovering or uncovering my capacity. And that made me feel so alive. Many thru-hikers, after they've completed their first thru-hike, just want to go on another thru-hike so that they can experience those feelings again. And for me, I considered that, but there was a part of me that was like, I think I want something different. I didn't know what it was at the beginning. I did know, though, when I came back from the PCT in October of 2019, that I had almost no money left in my account, so I needed to make money. So I went and got the book by Jen Sincero, I'm a Badass at Making Money. And that opened my eyes to the idea that I didn't have to exchange my time for money. I could instead create value in the world using my skills, my unique gifts, my strengths, my talents, my experiences, and create a more flexible, purposeful life that way. That's when, a few months after reading that book, that's when I started my business, or started thinking in more of a business-like way. And in 2020, I kept doing illustration work, graphic design work, but I started creating products and services on the side. That year, in 2020, I made $5,000 with my business. And then the next year came around, 2021, and that's when I set my second big number goal. So the first one was the PCT, that changed my life. And then my second big number goal was I want to make $100,000, $100,000 in my business. And I remember how I felt when I decided that. I felt that it was ridiculous. But that's the adventure that I decided to go on. So people kept asking me, and they still do, like, oh, are you thinking, what's your next thru hike? Do you have a big trip coming that you're planning? And I'm like, no, this is my trip. This is my hike, growing my business. And that year, I told myself I was still doing graphic design and illustration work for other people. And I told myself I will transition to full-time business when I can cover my monthly expenses with my business, okay? And then it didn't take long because I was so committed and so dedicated. I set that goal, that big number goal, for exactly the same reason that I decided to thru-hike the Pacific Crest Trail, to see what I was capable of, to have a clear focus and cut the crap, and to make bold moves. And you know what? That year, I reached my goal. I think I ended the year with $100,400. I was so proud. So my business went from $5,000 to $100,000 from one year to the other. And then the year after, 2022, last year, I set the goal of $300,000, but didn't reach it. You know what I did? I set that goal, but I don't think I was really taking myself seriously, because after like a month, I think I just forgot about it, or I silently quit on myself. So last year I made $125,000. And although I didn't reach my 300K goal, I'm still super proud. I mean, I created $125,000 of value in the world, doing something that I love. And I went on 4 trips, which was really important to me as well, creating a lifestyle in which I had more flexibility to go on adventures. And by the way, when I say $125,000, it's not all for me as salary. It's revenue from my business. So I don't give all of that to myself as salary. A big chunk of it is reinvested in my business. So that means software, coaching, learning, business trips, and more. Now, in 2023, this year, I am setting the same goal as last year, 300K, but I'm much more grounded and much more focused and serious about it this time. I don't think I would have talked about it last year. That's how unassuming I was. So why do I set this goal? Well, now that I saw that I was capable of making more than 100K, I want to see, okay, what next? What am I capable of next? I want to make even bolder moves, see the growth that's on the other side. And again, I want to have this clearer focus that's going to allow me to cut even more crap out of the way. And when I say cut the crap out, a lot of that is mental crap. Like, one of the reasons why I didn't make 300K this year is because I was going, for example, oh, this is too hard. I don't feel like doing this. Or, oh, I shouldn't ask for that amount. They're probably going to think I'm greedy. And all of these kind of small thoughts, the making yourself small, or maybe I shouldn't talk about this on social media, or I shouldn't talk about this in my podcast. It might offend people. That's all the kind of crap that I want to cut out. Like, I want to be purposeful. I want to help as many people as I can help. And in order to do that, I need to get rid of the thoughts that keep me small. And setting a big goal like this is going to help me do that. So from 0 to 100K, I had to learn, like, the crap that I cut is I had to learn to take myself seriously. I had to create an office for myself. I had to be able to carve out time in my schedule and be able to tell my partner if he wanted to talk when I was supposed to work, to be like, no, I'm working right now. We're going to talk later, which is something that I couldn't do before because I didn't want to hurt his feelings. So there's different levels, right? New level, new devil. And from 0 to 100K, it allowed me to set firmer boundaries, to take myself seriously as an entrepreneur. And now it's just going to be new skills that I'm going to develop. Just like when I hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, I had to learn to do something when I didn't feel like it, which is hike. I had to learn how to keep putting one foot in front of the other, even when I was so bored with it. And that showed me, like, okay, when you commit to doing something and you keep doing it even though you're bored, you can get really far. So that's a skill I learned hiking the PCT. And then from 0 to 100K, I learned new skills. And now from 100 to 300K, I'm excited to see what it is that I'm going to have to learn, how, like, I can make myself sharper, how I can enhance my thinking. This is what big number goals are about, enhancing your thinking so that you can enhance the results that you create in your life. Another reason why I want to make 300K is because between you and I, it might be the last year without a kid for me. If everything goes well, this is my last year without the responsibility of a kid. So I want to go all in and build solid foundations for myself, for my family, solid foundations financially. And I also want to be able to have a small team that's going to support me when I have a kid. So that's the beginning of that. And I'm really excited about having a team. I'm excited about paying them well. I'm excited about giving them like a cool, flexible schedule. I'm excited about doing profit sharing at the end of the year. That sounds super fun to me. If you don't know what that is, it's pretty self-explanatory, but you give a percentage of the profits that you and your team have made. You give them that at the end of the year, like a gift at the end of the year. And that sounds so fun, like celebrating our success together. And okay, so 300K, I've given you some of the main reasons why I want to do this. And I also want to go on 6 trips this year. I already have 3 of them planned. I'm really excited about. So there's 3 other trips I'm going to go on. I don't know what they are yet. I also want to go on quarterly, so once every 3 months, local work retreats. So where I can like focus on what happened in that quarter and set goals for the next quarter. And lastly, I also want to go on 6 solo weekends with my partner, because that's when we connect most deeply. And these are my favorite moments with him. So I want to make it like a intentional, important part of my year. Now, I want to give you more reasons for setting a big number goal for yourself. Number 1, setting a big number goal means that you are owning what it is that you want. You are owning your desires, making them legitimate, and taking charge of getting them. Okay? Number 2, you think ahead of time about what you want. So let's say you want to own a house because you dream of having kids and giving them that house when you die. That's a very specific example. You have to think about these things. If you want to retire early, you have to think about these things. Think ahead of time. Instead of going like, oh, well, you know, in our generation, we are never going to retire. It's impossible to buy a house on this market. That's not a good attitude to have. Instead, you want to be like, okay, what is it that I want? Okay, I want to have a house in the woods. That's for me. I want to have a house in the woods. I also want to have support when I have a kid. I want to be able to pay to receive support. So I need to consider these and set goals accordingly. So that's number 2. Think ahead of time about what you want and what you need to set in place to make it happen. And number 3, reason number 3 why you should set a big number goal is I want you to stop leaving it up to hope. Instead of hoping for your life to get better, instead of hoping for things to work out, you decide. You intentionally, daringly decide, this is what I want. And you don't use these goals to beat yourself up. Like when I set the 300K goal in last year, I didn't make it. That's fine. I'm trying again. And if you think this is not possible for you, if you feel like right now you're listening to me and you feel called to setting a big number goal as well, but part of you is like, but this is for other people. I want you to consider that you belong to big dreams as well. I was lucky because I had the chance to watch my parents dream big and work hard and go after what they wanted when I was growing up. But not everyone had the chance to see that. The messages that I have heard growing up is it's possible for you. But not everyone has heard this message. And the only reason why you might think it's possible for me, but it's not possible for you, is just because you have not been told it is. Let's say you grew up with parents who hated their job or hated their boss or thought that their boss was a fraud, and they talked about how they hated rich people and how making money is wrong and da-da-da. Then you're gonna grow up with these messages integrated in your thinking. Not necessarily because they're true, just because you've heard them again and again and again and again. And you've got to ask yourself, is this what I want to keep believing? It's funny because sometimes I talk with someone and I might say something like, oh, you could hike the PCT as well. Or, oh, you could make 100K as well if you wanted. And people almost get angry. Not everyone, but some people get angry. Like, how dare you say that? Because it goes against their set of beliefs. If they've always believed that their maximum was 30, 40K, because that's what they've observed around them in their family or in their friends, then it's going to create cognitive dissonance. You don't have to make 100K. I'm just telling you that you can if you want. It's a possibility. But people get angry, feel triggered because it contradicts what they've always believed about themselves, what they've always been told about what's possible. So you just want to get curious if you do that. Like, let's say you're an artist and you're surrounded by other struggling artists. Like, you might think, who am I to think that I can make 100K with my art? It's arrogant. It's not arrogant. It's just not like a message that you are used to hearing. But it is a possibility if you choose to pursue it. So just get curious about what are the messages that you have heard and integrated, and decide if you want to think differently. if you want to open up your mind to a different way to see the world and what's possible. All you need to consider, if you've been listening to this episode and thinking, oh, I wish I could do this too, is maybe I can. Maybe I actually can too. And your brain's going to probably offer a bunch of excuses. Oh, but no, she's like, you can't do it because you have this limitation, this limitation, this limitation. Like you have a broken leg, you come from a different background, you're a different race, you have depression, whatever it is, your brain's going to come up with excuses and you got to challenge them. Think, oh yeah, I have this limitation, or not even, we don't necessarily need to call it a limitation. I have this factor to consider about myself. Be more matter of fact, like I was talking about in the beginning. Let's say you struggle with mental health. You have a mental health diagnosis. That's a factor to consider. And maybe I can do this too. And asking yourself, how? What would I need to change in my thinking in order to achieve this kind of goal? Just hang out in those questions instead of closing the door right away. Just start considering that you could have a completely different life in which you feel challenged, stimulated, fulfilled, purposeful, in which you have more flexibility to travel, to go outside, to go on adventures, in which you make more money, and making money doing what you love, doing work that you actually love, that feels meaningful to you. I remember when I was a designer, first I felt like the work that I was doing, it was fine, but I was like, what's the point of this? I feel like no one's going to care about this. No one's going to really see it, or they're going to see it, but they're not really going to pay attention to it. Like I'm pouring my heart out in that creation and it's not aligned with my values. And plus, like my boss made it a big deal that I wanted to take 3 weeks off, like 3 weeks off in a whole year. To me, that's crazy. So I completely changed my circumstance, and I just want you to consider that it's possible for you too, so that you can prepare mentally, so that you can be mentally ready for when I open enrollment for Brave and Bold in February. Brave and Bold is my 6-month coaching program in which we get really clear on the direction of your life, where you want to go, and make a plan to get there. And the reason why you want to join a program like Brave and Bold versus doing it alone is because setting a big number goal is one thing, but going after it is a lot of fucking work and effort. So what often happens is people are going to set a big goal, but then they're going to silently quit. Okay, like I did with my 300K goal last year. People are going to silently quit, but when you're in a program like Brave and Bold, you cannot do that because we meet every week. So we hold each other. I hold you accountable and the others hold you accountable to your goals because we're all invested in your success. Okay? You're not alone in that. We all know about what you want to accomplish, and so you cannot hide. Another reason is that you're setting a big goal is scary. So you're going to get freaked out. You're going to have to spend a lot of time in the discomfort. And I teach you in Brave and Bold tools to calm your nervous system down and realign so that you're not so freaked out that you quit, that you stop everything. So I teach you tools to practice grounding and recentering yourself, getting rid of the overwhelm and getting focused again so that you can keep moving forward. And lastly, when you're alone, you get scattered, right? So you either silently quit, or you freak out and then quit, or you white knuckle your way through. You do it, but you have no fun doing so because you're forcing yourself to do it. Or you get scattered. You're like, try a bunch of things, but you don't have a clear path. Versus in Brave and Bold, you follow a step-by-step process. And we create a plan for you, for your specific goals, to reach your specific goals that you can then follow one step at a time so that you don't get scattered. You stay on track. So that's it for today. Think about what you want your big number goal to be. It doesn't have to be money. I remember one of my big number goals in the past was 10 podcast episodes. I also did 10 YouTube videos. That's okay too. Sometimes you need these kinds of goals to expand your comfort zone before you're ready to set like a money goal. Now, before we leave, I want to tell you the story of a woman that I met that I thought was so inspiring. So that woman was in her 50s and she had worked in, I think, social work all her life as a social worker. And the biggest salary that she had made was $48,000. And in her 50s, she decided to start a business. Now, when she decided to start a business, the first big number goal that she set was 50K because she'd made 48 she'd made maximum 48 in her career. So what seemed possible for her at the time was 50K. So that's what she set, and she reached that goal. And when I met her, she was at 2.5 million a year. She was about 60 or 61 or 62 years old. So think about this. For the first 50 years of her life, she made $48K per year. She was fine, but she, in her 50s, completely changed her life and now makes 2.5 million. And you know what? She's an angel investor. She invests in other people's business. And what's amazing is that most investors are men. Okay, most angel investors are men. So a 52-year-old woman investing is like, this sort of shit changes the world. Because right now, most people who decide what happens with the money in the world are men. So we need more women with more money and more non-binary folks with more money, because money is power. And with power, you get to change things for real. I was talking with my friend, my sister-in-law moved to Australia. She's not my sister-in-law because I'm not married, but you know, Ollie's sister, my partner's sister, moved to Australia, and daycare is super expensive there. It's like $150 per day for one kid, so $300 if you have two kids. That's like, let me do some quick math. That's like $6,000 a month. She told me that many women just don't go back to work because it's not worth it. It's not worth it because it's so expensive. So they stay at home and they take care of the kids. And that's okay if that's what they want, but it sounds like it's not a choice for many people. So I'm very grateful that here in Quebec, Canada, where I am, we have super affordable. It's like $8 a day, I think, for daycare. And you know why? Because we had a female prime minister. Her name is Pauline Marois, and she's responsible for affordable daycare that allows women to choose. Do they want to take care of their kids at home, or do they want to go back to work? And that happened because a woman had power. So that is why it's so important to have more women with more power. And money is, well, a great way to get more power. That's why I talk about it. That's why I want to talk more openly about my numbers, about the money that I make through my business, so that it's not like a taboo subject. Like, oh, don't talk about this. We don't talk about numbers. Don't. Oh my God. I remember being someone telling me like, oh, we don't talk numbers at the table. It's impolite. Oh, shut up. Come on. We need to talk about these things, because keeping it a secret is just a tool of oppression to make sure that no one asks for more. Speaking of asking for more, you don't need to want to start a business in order to set a big number goal, a money goal, because you can also work with your boss to figure out what you would need to do, what kind of value you would need to create in order to get a raise. You can get a raise. You can also create money on the side, like I did in the beginning. There's many different ways. All you need is to consider that maybe you can dream bigger as well. Okay, that's it for today. I love you all. I wish you a wonderful week, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.
Hey!
You just listened to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. Make sure to subscribe and to find me on Instagram at Self-Growth Nerds. If you want individual help developing the confidence to create a more meaningful and exciting life, visit selfgrowthnerds.com today to learn how. Finally, I want to thank my friend Etienne Galano for editing this, and I want to thank you, kind-hearted souls, for growing into your truest, most courageous selves every day and making this world a better, more beautiful place. My name is Marie, and I will talk to you next week.